Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 361. I am Peter, and joining me this week, because Matt's still on his cruise, is Connor.
Yeah, I'm here a lot right now.
Yeah, also Matt, his team in ice hockey, I saw him tweet about it, won
Yeah, we won.
the season or whatever it is, and he can't actually watch any of the coverage or take part or celebrate properly. Like, he's cut off from the world. He was complaining about, like, cruise Wi-Fi.
Yeah, he had to watch. I think he had to listen to the final game as a radio broadcast instead of watch it because the ship Wi-Fi was too bad to watch it. And then it's like all the victory parade stuff, you know, city celebrations are like this probably this weekend, I think.
Yeah,
and obviously he's not there.
But yes, I saw him tweet out, if you're in Vegas, please celebrate for me. God, it's pathetic.
I'm sure they did celebrate very hard for him. Extra hard because he asked.
Yes, I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
I just don't get sports. I don't give a shit. It's
well, that's because you're boring.
it's like a monumental event for him. I'm like, he can be happy. I'm happy he's happy. I don't get it at all. But regardless, we're here. It's a DC Comics podcast, everyone. We talk about the DC Comics we read this week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Green Lantern issue 2, Superman Lost issue 4, Spirit World issue 2, and that's actually it for the new books. But we have some Patreon books to look at. Connor will be talking about Tim Drake Robin, or Time Drake Robin, as I've written down here.
Hey, might be a better book.
It might be. I'll be looking at Batman the Outsiders issue 4. And then Connor will also be looking at Noctera issue 12. I was going to try and do a wee sneaky extra book, but do you know why I didn't? Because it's so goddamn warm that every time I tried to read, I started falling asleep.
Yeah, which book were you going to... Can I make a guess? Assuming it... Is it an issue 1, or are you just going to do issue 2 or something already?
No, it was issue 1.
Okay, was it Void Rivals?
No, it wasn't a new book.
Oh. Because Void Rivals was, I don't know if you saw, they kind of, Robert Kirkman did it again. He got, I think it leaked slightly in advance this time, but he surprise dropped a book again.
All right.
Void Rivals, and it's a crossover book with Transformers and G.I. Joe. And it also, at the back of it, announced a new Transformers book from, I believe, Philip Kennedy Johnson?
I missed all this, apparently. No. What I was
sorry, it's Daniel Warren Johnson was the Transformers.
Oh,
you know, from Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, and the I believe Do a Power Bomb.
Well, I was thinking Jurassic League. Is that not?
That might have been him as well.
Yeah, I think that was he. He was like cool.
I think he wrote that one, but didn't draw it. I want to say.
Or the other way around. I can't remember, but his name was definitely on it. So, yeah. No, I missed all this. Partly, but don't worry. No, the thing that I was going to read next time I've got a quiet week, I'll sneak it in. It's nice to have a few in reserves for quiet weeks, you know, such as I mean, this isn't as bad as the week 5 was. The week 5 was pretty terrible.
I mean, there's 3 books and all of them are normal size. This is pretty low.
I mean, one's got a backup at least.
You're right. I forgot about the backup.
There's a little bit of news, and you know,
is there?
We got Patreon books. Yeah, we got things to talk about. But of course, we'll start with what we always start with: the pinnacle of podcast entertainment, the Cannes Film Festival of audio formats. It is, of course, the ComiXology Top 10 segment.
You know, it is even worse. I found out the other day there are some accounts that have been aggregating from stores and so the site that shall not be named used to do it with a very small sample size occasionally, not even consistently, but I think there's at least 2 Twitter accounts now that do it pretty regularly every week.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if that's any more reliable than whatever ComiXology's random things do.
Yeah, I don't know. But we'll look at the rankings on ComiXology for both Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday, of course, being DC's day. If I could mix the 2 days, I would, but that's just not how they sort them anymore. So, yeah, we'll look at Tuesdays first. Would you care to guess what number 1 was?
Green Lantern, just because there's not much else.
It is Green Lantern, and perhaps just because there was not much else. But
I don't think. I'm going to go on a limb and say it probably doesn't have bad sales, but I don't expect it to have normal number one spot numbers.
I suspect people who are happy with Adam's Flash are probably checking it out quite happily, and then people who have been waiting for a Green Lantern book will at least be giving it a try. So, I think you've got a decent pool of comic readers interested. Number 2 is Superman Lost issue 4. Number 3 is Wildcats issue 8, which Mac was threatening to drop every issue he read. I don't know if he finally has, but every week every month he was like, I don't think I could keep up with this one. And I think it's just because it kept coming out on quieter weeks that he just kind of kept giving it and just reading it anyway. Number 4 is Waller versus Wildstorm. Number 5 is Batman Incorporated. Number 6, I can't count, is DC Pride Through the Years, which is sort of the Pride special with the reprint stuff. So I think that's what it is. Anyway.
It's just got I think there's a Poison Ivy thing. They're all reprints from older issues.
And then number 7, Spirit World, issue 2. Number 8 is Static Annual. Oh, sorry, no, Static Team Up and Anansi. I glanced and the word Anansi just looked like annual to me. And then number 9 is Batman Beyond the White Knight. This is a trade, by the way. This is not a new single issue, which just tells you there wasn't a lot of books out this week. And then number 10 is the Sandman Universe, Night Country, or whatever it's called. So, that's basically everything. Like, literally next is the Mad Magazine digital version. So, yeah, definitely a smaller week for DC. All these new books can't come soon enough. Although we've had a few of them now, admittedly. We are obviously, though, and going into a couple of weird months where there's going to be a lot of books out every week, but obviously it's not the regular schedule because it's all Night Terror stuff. But we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how many of those you actually end up wanting to read. I think month 2 will be the real.
Yeah, I think month 1, I'll try the majority. I imagine, right? There'll be some that maybe just look bad at face value, but for the most part, I'll try them. Month 2, well, that's probably a good little fun bet to have. Is what percentage of all the number 1s we read in July then get number 2 read in August?
30%.
You think a third? You think we'll only read a third of the number 2s?
I think it'll be a third. I think it'll be the ones that are the direct continuations of their books, and then a couple of others, and that'll be it.
It's not a terrible guess.
That 30%, it kind of depends on how many are actual continuations of their books. I haven't looked into, with the hard numbers for that, but yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, number 1 on Wednesday. Any guess?
Is it an X-Men book?
It's actually not.
Is it a Spider-Man book?
Nope.
Is it Void Rivals?
It is Void Rivals, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking the only other thing that I can think that might have outsold it is a random Kirkman book, because that man sells way too many copies of everything somehow.
Yeah, which, by the way, the cover does not give me any hint that it is some Transformers G.I. Joe.
I'm sure I got told it was a Transformers G.I. Joe.
It probably is. Honestly, G.I. Joe's not something I grew up with. I don't recognize anything G.I. Joe related. It's alien to me. I can't spoil something from recent times, but I'll just say I've got an anecdote to tell you after the podcast recording, because you won't care about this thing being spoiled.
Okay.
But let's just say my lack of knowledge about G.I. Joe came into play recently. So, all right. So Void Rivals is number 1. Number 2 is X-Men Red, issue 12. Number 3 is Wolverine 34. 4 is Amazing Spider-Man. 5 is Marvel's Voices Pride. So they're the Pride special as well. Also $10 as well. And then number 6 is Black Panther issue 1. This is e-viewing. Right in that?
Yeah, I've read a few other things before. I've not nothing I've ever loved, but nothing that has been terrible from what I've tried of her stuff before.
Number 7 is Doctor Strange issue 4. Number 8 is Rogue and Gambit issue 4. Number 9 is Captain America Cold War. And then number 10 is a trade, but it looks a bit Night Fever Volume 1 by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips.
It's OGN.
It's OG, okay. Well, that makes sense why it's selling so well then.
It's obviously, since the pandemic, they've shifted away from doing monthlies entirely, and they just do graphic novels now.
Okay.
They've had like 5 or 6 of the Reckless books. This is their first one that's not Reckless since they've started doing these. And I think I think just last week they've announced another one for towards the end of the year. They've been pretty consistent. Like every 5 or 6 months, they pump one of these, 150, 200 page books out. And every single one of them's been great so far.
Not that surprising.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great team, so it's not a shock. I've got my copy of this new one arrives next week, I think, so I'll probably read it then.
Yeah, and they had a bunch of stuff out this week, Marvel as well. Captain Marvel, Moon Knight, Darth Vader, all sort of in the top 15, as well as X-23 Regenesis. There's an image book called Battle Chasers that was out this week. That just missed the top 10. Star Trek comics out this week as well. That just missed the top 15. So, good variety of stuff on Wednesday. Should you have been looking. But there you go. That's ComiXology Top 10. Yeah. So we got a couple of bits in news. One specific to comics here. So we got a new Black Label book incoming. So
let me get. Okay, I have not seen this yet. Is it somehow Batman?
Well, I mean, it's called Batman Gargoyle of Gotham. Do you get Batman from that?
I'm getting Batman from that. Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a lot of high percentage of Black Label books have been Batman.
Could be Plastic Man.
I mean, hey, maybe this is like that. The animated movie. I can't remember. It was called Batman or Arkham something or other, but it was actually just a Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah, they were just selling it as a Batman thing. So yeah, 4-issue miniseries launches on Batman Day, which is Saturday, September the 16th. So it will be published bi-monthly, which is not surprising. But launching on a Saturday though, how's that going to work?
The same as it does on Free Comic Book Day.
But it's weird for a full, price book.
Yeah, but they'll be just telling the stores. They'll ship it with the rest of the orders earlier in the week and just put a sale date of Saturday and be like, you can't sell it till Batman Day.
Okay, I guess so. Luckily, I don't read my books usually till Saturday, the day we record anyway, so I'll just read it with the rest of the books. But I can see Matt complaining that he has to squeeze in a Batman book on the day of recording.
Yeah, see, because for Matt, it's kind of like morning when we do this.
Yeah, and he sprinkles these books out over a number of days. So yeah, anyway, so the new book will focus on a version of Batman who willingly lets go of his life as Bruce Wayne in favor of full-time crime fighting. This comes at a terrifying cost, however, that we imagine has something to do, this is Newsarama's words, has something to do with that old quote about gazing into the abyss. Interesting. Where's the creative team on this? Why have they not put that up front? That's looking awkward.
That's kind of important in a Black Label book.
Yeah.
See if I can find anything.
Oh my god! Just
Raphael Grampa.
Oh, there you go. Why the heck? Honestly, like before you even start talking, title of the book and the creators, right? Just give me that.
It's shitty enough when it's like a mainstream website that does that. But when it's a comics focused like target audience, it's particularly shitty.
Yeah. Do you know what? It says Grandpa says that, and so it's as if it's already mentioned him, and I'm scanning the article previous to that to see where it actually mentions who the writer is. Because it's not in the opening.
Yeah, I assume he's writing and drawing it.
Okay, here we go. So yeah, he's writing and drawing, yes. Yeah, Raphael Grampa. Okay.
Yeah. The only thing I know him from is he did the the Dark Knight Return Superman thing, whatever that was called. He drew that, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, there's a more in-depth description here. In a Gotham City where every day feels darker and more irredeemable than the last, Batman makes a definitive choice to kill off the Bruce Wayne identity for good and embrace the cape and cowl full time. But though he knows the streets of Gotham, Batman will soon come to find that he hardly knows himself. A serial killer is on the loose, and while the murder victims seem random at first, every clue draws Batman closer to the terrifying truth that they are all connected, not just to each other, but to him as well. When an all-new rogues gallery of utterly depraved villains begins to emerge from the depths of the city, Batman will have to contend with the very nature of evil, including that which lurks in the darkest corners of his own heart, to face what is coming for the city he has sworn to protect. So it's a little bit, like, they almost go into that, like, not just for the city, but also for Batman thing a couple times. You know, his own heart. You know, there's a lot of dramatic fluff in that description.
He's an interesting, fairly unique artist for DC in terms of their style. I can't think of anything else that they publish that's remotely like his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the cover looks nice. It's this sort of Batman pose like he has a gargoyle on like a roof corner.
Yeah, should give him a nice, give it a nice style. Like, and that's the best thing about a lot of these Black Label books is, you know, they can very much get away from house style and look pretty different.
Yeah, they've announced like 5 or 6 variants here as well. Unsurprising. So, there's a Jim Lee variant, black and white variant of that. There's a Paul Pope. There's a Frank Miller cover. I'm sure we'll all be rushing to get that. But there you go. So that's the actual comic book news. But there's more Batman news, just not comic book related specifically, that seemed worth mentioning. Because would you believe it, Connor? Just the last couple of days, a DC movie came out that neither of us have felt the desire to go see.
The only things I know about this movie still are dead people and babies in microwaves.
Yeah. I have seen a couple of spoiler clips on Twitter. One of them I just don't understand, which is perhaps a reference to the microwave thing that Connor just said.
Just slight more context for the leaked clip on Twitter that people might have seen. That is reversed, you know. So in the movie, it's out of the microwave, not in.
Okay, interesting. That does make a bit more sense. But that's
slightly more sense.
Yeah, but that's not spoil anything for people who actually don't want spoilers. But you know, I've seen a few clips on Twitter, and it does not look good. Even just from the potato cam quality video of these clips. The CG looks...
Did you see his defense of the CG?
I did. The director came out and said it was intended. That he meant to do that. From Barry's
point of view, so it's meant to look a little wonky.
But why does he also look like shit? Why does he look like shit too? That doesn't make any sense. Bunch of nonsense, I have to say. And I was already down in this movie. I don't like the premise of it. I don't like that they're doing this as the first Flash movie. We've talked about this before. We won't get into it. It's all just a bit of a Batman 89 nostalgia wank, with all the nostalgia pops that you expect. You know, we've ranted about Let's Get Nuts that was in one of the trailers. But the news that's spinning out of all this is that, for some reason, James Gunn decided that Andy Muschietti, who directed The Flash, is now going to direct Batman Brave and the Bold, which is the Bat Family movie that's going to be part of the new universe.
In his defense, from what I gather, he clearly wanted to make a Batman movie and got forced into making it a Flash movie.
Yeah, but I don't like any of his films, though.
No, I don't either, but...
So, I'm not even necessarily judging my disappointment on this news based on The Flash itself, because ultimately that movie's been through so much turmoil that, like, even if you gave it a director that I really liked, I'm not convinced they could have turned it into like a good movie or something that didn't look laughable from what I've seen. But I don't like Mama. I think the first It's okay, but the horror parts are the weakest parts of it, which is kind of distressing for a horror movie. And then Chapter 2 was trash. Like, it was just bad. So I am not excited by this choice in any way. Like, there's nothing about his name being attached to a movie. And I was joking yesterday that it was basically, how can we give Peter like red flags for every single Batman project that might have been promising beforehand? It was that news, and I don't have it in front of me, but there was like an article going around about the new Cape Crusader animated show where Bruce Timm said something to the effect that he's going to get to do everything that he couldn't do on Batman the animated series because it's not on a kids channel. And
yeah, that's got me less excited for that show.
Because, I mean, let's be honest, he's got a bit of a weird fetish when it comes to Barbara Gordon and Batman for some reason, and we all saw his Killing Joke, and that new stuff he added was horrible.
And what's particularly frustrating is there are some really effective sequences in the original show that are more effective because of the limitations they had being a kid show. Like one of the famous examples is the Robin's parents' death sequence. They originally just wanted to animate it, them falling off the wire, the trapeze being cut and them falling. And they were told, absolutely not, it's a kid's show, you can't show that. So it's all done in, the silhouette. They swing off screen, you hear the snip, and then it swings back with the cut rope. Incredibly effective, and all because they were told, no, you can't do that. I don't know if I want to see what he does completely unchained again.
Yeah. The more time has passed since Batman the animated series, the more it's kind of felt like Bruce Timm, like all the restrictions, and obviously Paul Dini being around and some of the other names that were there, probably reined in a lot of things and helped make that show what it was. My
only hope is there are still other good writers attached to this show that maybe have some influence. People like, Brubaker's attached.
Yeah, I don't know. But he does like dark and grey stuff, though. Maybe that'll appeal to him, all the weird shit that Tim might want to do. So, I don't know. So, the Bat Family movie, I don't like the director they've attached to it, and I'm not liking these comments about the new animated show. So, which is a shame, because I wanted to look forward to both of these things, and now I'm in a place where I'm not looking forward to either of them, really. I mean, they could turn it around. I could see a trailer for either, and maybe they'll, I think that the director problem is definitely a bigger one, because, like, that's more reliable to have a negative effect, I guess. Because poor direction is poor direction, and if I don't like his work, there's a good chance that I still won't like it, even if he's doing a Batman movie.
Yeah, there's some people saying, oh, it's fine, because even if you don't like his stuff, they're going to just, James Gunn's going to basically be the Feige, and he'll, ghost direct everything. Like how, how all the Marvel movies have a style, and I don't see that being the case specifically with James Gunn. His whole identity is, even after he became big, is kind of having his own vision and doing his shit, and being kind of counterculture, so to speak. For him to then be like, no, you're all going to sound like me, would be a really out of character move for him. Yeah,
I don't see him being that controlling about the style and tone. I mean, maybe there's some like tone things that you have to sort of stick to because they're going to connect up later, but yeah. But other than that, I don't know if I see James Gunn enforcing that kind of thing. But no, I would have liked a better director. It's just not a name that excites me. I just think he's not very good. Like, it's not even specific to superhero movies. I just don't think he's good in general.
One small hope is that The Flash is not making that much money, really. So maybe they'll decide, maybe we'll try something else after all.
I don't know. I feel like because they've announced it now, right, and they've actually said that he's doing it, I think they'll stick to that. I think The Flash not doing very well will just ensure, like, I think up until now they've been kind of coy and saying, oh no, we might keep Ezra Miller around, but I think they were just saying that in the off chance that this movie blew up and became this huge hit. The fact that it's doing relatively lukewarm, much like a lot of things have been doing this summer, to be honest, then that's them saying, okay, we can just move on from this now. We don't have to deal with it, really. So,
yeah.
It's so weird. I don't know. Yeah,
all the movies are doing lukewarm because everyone's just waiting for Oppenheimer and Barbie on the same day.
Yeah, Fast 10 was kind of underperforming, at least domestically. Fast 10 was underperforming.
Did that underperform in general, or like just compared to the rest of that franchise in recent years? Because that franchise probably overperformed
Compared to the franchise, but I mean, I don't think it did like 100 million opening in the US. It was less than that, so it did feel lukewarm, whatever it was. And then what else just came out that kind of underperformed? The new Transformers that didn't have like a huge opening either.
Yeah.
I don't think Spider-Verse is doing fine, but I don't think it's doing like gangbuster numbers either. Like everything seems to be kind of just doing all right. Nothing's breaking records, or there's no Top Gun Maverick yet. Maybe they're just waiting for Tom Cruise again because he's got a Mission Impossible coming out. Maybe
is that coming out towards the end of the year? I take it.
No, it's like July, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe August. That push. I can't remember exactly the date, but
July's Oppenheimer and Barbie, so I'm assuming it's a little bit after.
No, it's before that because he's pissed that the IMAX screens are being taken away from.
Yes, because they're stealing them like a week or two after, aren't they?
Yeah. So there's a lot of movies coming out. Do you know what this feels like? It feels like a lot of stuff during the pandemic built up a little bit, and they're ready to release a lot of them this year at the same time, and that's why there's like an overglut of just big movies out all close together. Yeah. That's what it feels like, which is funny because now with the writer's strike and stuff, there's a good chance that there'll be another little drought coming.
I mean, Disney just delayed all the Avatars and Star Wars is by like a year. Just everything just got a flat delay.
Which I don't think has anything to do with any of those individual productions. I think that's just, we have to spread all this out and push everything back because of the strike.
Absolutely. Even like Marvel movies as well. I know they delayed. I'm sure they've announced a couple of those got delayed as well by like a year.
Yeah, I think they basically all just get bumped back a slot or two, effectively.
Yeah. Again, not surprising. I think the biggest surprise will be if they don't have to bump them back any further.
It depends how long the strike goes. It depends if the actors officially go on strikes as well, which is possible.
Are the directors still voting on that as well?
I think so, yeah, because they're
about to have their vote.
All of their contracts and stuff all ended in the summer. They were all really close together, so like all this is going on at the same time. But I suppose in a weird way, if the writers are already on strike, the actors being on strike doesn't change things that much. It's just, okay, now we've got two groups to debate with rather than the one. Because they're already shutting stuff down. Like, the Penguin show, the new Daredevil show have both shut down production because of the writer's strike. In some cases, because they need material, but in some cases, I believe they're actually picketing the sets. So they're just like, we can't shoot because there's too many people, like,
I think it's a combination as well. Like some days they're like, we'll risk it, and then obviously it doesn't happen. And too many of those days, it's just not worth it.
Yeah. So everything is on kind of a halt right now. Comic book writers, though, are not part of the Writers Guild for motion pictures and whatnot. So comic books are still coming out, everyone.
Yeah, and again, neither are animation workers, which is why something like Spider-Man, the next Spider-Verse movie, will probably still come out roughly on time.
Yeah. Some comic book writers are also in the WGA because they also do some script work occasionally. I assume they can still write comic books when...
Yes, they just can't write for TV shows or movies, Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's completely, there is no overlap essentially in the jobs.
Yeah, it's one of those little things where I just I could have been worried that there was like a weird technicality, even though they shouldn't affect each other, that just because they're tied to it, it's like, you can't write anything.
No, think of it similar to how there's a lot of big two exclusive contracts which still allow them to do indie work as well. So they can still have like indie books at Image, but it's essentially you can't work for Marvel or DC. That's kind of it, really. This is the same where they can't work on those things, but they can still work on comics because no one's taking a comics job and being like, yes, this will pay me more than that TV job, so I'll be fine. There's no competition really. It's the people who want to do it that are just doing those jobs, right? Definitely, judging by the comics broke me trend that has been going around the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's like some of the biggest writers in comics will probably be paid more than the lowest writer on a TV show, but there's not a lot of people in that position, I would expect.
Yeah, no, few and far between, I would assume.
You know, like obviously no showrunners out there. I'm just thinking about like, yeah, the new rookie staff writer who gets paid basically minimum wage. I'm sure they're making less than like a big shot comic book writer, but that's probably the only kind of like comparison that would, you know, work out that way. Anywho, so that's the news. But so yeah, a lot of shit Batman news. I mean, the comic book's fine. Like the Black Label book may be great, but
but the Batman book isn't fine.
The actual Batman ongoing right now is not good. Yes, I concur with that. But all this Bat movie and TV news for me, honestly, like this entire thing, like ever since like the start of the whole Snyder period of movies, this is Zack Snyder, not Scott Snyder, just to be clear. I feel like it's just they've just pummeled away my enthusiasm for the movie projects. So until they give me something that convinces me this might not be shit, I just kind of have like an apathy towards the whole thing. Like,
yeah, I mean, out of the last 5, 6, 7 years of DC movies, I think I do love Birds of Prey. I think Birds of Prey is great. I know you have problems with it, but I think it's a great movie. And then the first Aquaman's okay. First Wonder Woman's all right, other than the final act.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think it's one of those weird things though, where it's actually hurt in retrospect because the sequel's so shit, and because it has that disappointing third act, you can't even go, well, you know, they messed the third act up, but the sequel, like, you know, take her to great new places, and no. So now you've got 2 acts of a movie that are good.
Out of 2 movies, yeah.
And it's like now it's just the whole thing's a bit of a wash.
What's come out recently? I've not seen the second Shazam movie. The first one was all right.
That was probably the best thing they had, which is a little sad, but it was probably the best thing they'd had in a long time. I like the new Batman movie. I know you weren't too hot on it. I thought it was really good.
But I don't think it's like objectively bad in the same way that like just a mess of a movie like Wonder Woman 84 is, for example.
Yeah, but that's totally a case to me where it's like, no, this is like this director's movie, and Matt Reeves made the movie he wanted. I think Matt Reeves is a good director, a good storyteller, and it worked out.
That's I suppose extra disappointing for me because I like Reeves. I just did not like that movie.
Yeah, but so I'm looking forward to his second movie, but I'm not looking forward. You know, I'm not necessarily thinking that all of the slate that Gunn announced is going to be bad. Some of it actually sounds promising enough. I was fairly positive when all those announcements were made, but like I'm not actively excited, and I probably won't be until I at least see a trailer that convinces me, hey.
I don't think you're alone, especially judging by like The Flash is box office. I think I read that if you take out the China numbers, it actually opened lower than Black Adam. Because Black Adam didn't open in China, which is why you can compare them like directly that way. So it's kind of, yes, it is higher than it, on paper, but in a apples to apples comparison, which is not good because that movie did bad.
Well, the hierarchy of power of DC, as we know,
it changed.
It changed, yes. Which, you know, the good news for James Gunn is that he does, like, nothing actually matters until one of his projects that was been announced comes out, because everything up until then it's like, well, it's not his fault because he just kind of came in and started developing for the next part. Although he did say this week that Blue Beetle is the first character of the new thing, although the first actual movie of the new thing is Superman Legacy, which is a bit weird. Basically, all he's really saying is that Blue Beetle is separate enough that if people like it and enjoy the character, they can happily include him in the future plans.
Yeah, I will say it gives me a little bit more faith in that movie, because he's thrown his weight. It's like, no, I'm backing that movie, whereas he very nobly did not say that about Flash.
I don't know, he said that, you know, he hired Andy Muschietti after he saw Flash, so he's kind of sticking up for it a bit.
Yeah, but that tells me he sees things he likes from a director that's working, but he's not saying, oh yeah, we want more of this Flash, we want more Ezra Miller, we want more of this Barry Allen. He's not saying any of those things.
Yeah,
I think that's a little bit different to me going, oh no, we support this, this character, because that's like the in-universe, no, we like what this is doing in this film.
yeah, maybe. I will see. But yeah, Blue Beetle, that's coming out.
Yeah, we'll see if I see it. maybe if I hear good things, I'll actually watch that one. But I don't think I'm ever going to watch Flash. Well, no, I take that back. I will watch it drunk one day just for a laugh.
I've got a feeling I'll end up watching it on stream with an audience, probably playing some movie bingo or something. It seems like primed for that.
Please don't make it a drinking game for me. Last time we did that was the Snyder Cut, and oh my god, I was so drunk by the end.
Oh dear. So there you go. That's the news. All happy this week. Oh dear. All right. Well, I suppose we can get into the comics then. We have up first Green Lantern issue 2. Jeremy Adams writing with Xermanico on the art. And you weren't here for issue 1. Did you like issue 1? I
did. I actually that was the week where I had read it, and then public transport screwed me over, and I had to miss the show, even though I was off. So yeah, no, I actually did quite like the first issue.
Good. So that still keeps up a little bit of that dual time period thing, where we're seeing kind of the first night he became Green Lantern again in the city, with his own willpower and whatnot. And there seems to be a little bit more to this story because he's flying around. He's testing his powers. There's a sort of fun little bit where there's some like robbers, the wrecking crew.
The demolition team.
The demolition team. Sorry, I forgot their name.
Do you not remember the demolition team?
I do remember. I've actually read some Silver Age Green Lantern, and they definitely pop up in some of those early stories. But they are on the run, and he decides to like scare them because they happen to be getting into a graveyard. So he does some Batman-inspired scare tactics, which, because he's got a Green Lantern ring, involves making some ghosts and scaring the shit out of them.
And the green works for that, like Spectre, style visions.
I feel like if I lived in the city where Green Lantern was known for being around, I might second guess it, but the demolition crew aren't the brightest bulbs in the planet. So
there's that, and I get the impression that Green Lantern has not been around in the city for a while.
That's true. That's been a kind of a plot point. So that's kind of the first half of the issue, although it does end with him flying up into the stratosphere and then the power turning off, and he's falling. It's probably my favorite page of the whole book is that shot of that full page spread of him falling out of the sky.
Good page. It's
gorgeous. Just those little touches of the lights of the city, sort of in the, underneath the atmosphere. That's good stuff. So I feel like there's probably more to that and like how he survived that we'll probably get next proper issue. I say that because we have Night Terrors.
Yeah, this just to jump ahead very slightly, it does say the end continues in Night Terrors.
Yes.
So this might be like it's kind of a stealth issue 3.
I feel like they've set it up and they'll continue on, but I've got a funny feeling that a lot of the threads that are in these first 2 issues might be conveniently ignored for 2 issues, just so that they do work as like a 2-part standalone thing.
Like a standalone thing that will function from where this leaves off at the end of this issue. But yeah, maybe.
Which I guess is only notable in the sense that you can notice it, but if you're reading in trade later, you probably wouldn't even think about it. Unless you happen to look at the contents and see that it's issue 1, 2, and then Night Terrors 1, 2.
The real questions will be, a couple of things. One, the fact that it's not going to have the backup in the Night Terrors, so that'll be pretty telling on a month-to-month basis.
True. Yeah.
2, I don't know if it's Xermanico or not on art for those issues.
Oh, it may not be. Yeah, that's a good point.
That'll be pretty jarring to jump away from. And 3, is it gonna it's only 2 issues in? It's weird to have this break, and then is it gonna have to do this weird make sure it's standalone? So can it almost have like a recap of where we're at in case someone's just jumping into these 2 issues, even if it is functionally just carrying on?
I mean, ultimately, this is not something I blame the book or I blame Adams for. This is on DC.
That's an editorial decision to have made them, after 2 issues, you're joining in with this line-wide thing.
And it's not just that, Shazam's the exact same thing. 2 issues and then, hey, it's time for Night Terrors. Like, we talked about that last time as well. At least with this book and that book, they are keeping the writer of the book on for the Night Terrors issues, so at least they've got a chance to sort of make it feel as connected and as important as it can be. But it is an awkward time, like ideally if you're going to have to interrupt things, you'd like to do it between arcs. You'd like to have their 6-7 issue arc out the way, then do your little interlude.
I've just checked. Yeah, no, it's a different artist.
Was it a good artist?
I'm not Panseeker.
Oh, that's alright then.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It's not Xermanico, but yeah, it's not terrible.
It could have been Rosmo, so
that is true.
every time it's like not like one of your favorite artists. It's like you just say to yourself, it could have been Rosmo, it could have been Romita Jr., it could have been Gilliam March. I'm just trying to think of another one we didn't like. Anyway, so yeah, but it comes back to present day. Hal runs into Kilowog, who's just chilling at his place, his trailer, and gives him some pep talk. Also insults Mountain Dew while he's there. So
I don't blame him.
I quite like Mountain Dew actually, so I don't know if I agree with Kilowog on this.
It's swill.
Oh yes, because all of the other soda drinks are all like upper class beverages versus.
I mean, I don't drink that many of them, to be fair, but it's not about its class. It's just about the fact that it's bad.
It's not bad. I bet you like Dr. Pepper. You're sitting here.
No, I hate Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
I hate cherry flavoring. I love cherries. Anything that has cherry flavoring is awful every time. Yeah,
I don't like cherry Coke or cherry anything.
Yeah, it's something about the flavoring that they use that they tell me is cherry. They're like, yeah, this tastes like cherry. It doesn't. It never tastes like cherries.
Aye. Mountain Dew is perfectly delicious. You are incorrect in your assessment. So there you go. I want to say something controversial and say it's better than something, but I'm not feeling strong enough on it to outright say it about any of the big ones. But I would take Mountain Dew over a Tango or a Fanta or what else should you get? A Lil.
Lil doesn't. Is Lil still a thing?
I don't know.
Lil the one there's one of them recently. It might have been Lil that they cancelled, and it's just like Fanta Tropical now. They renamed
okay.
It. Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. It's better than 7-Up. I'll say that.
No, that's a classic.
Nah, 7-Up. 7-Up, swell.
Lemon lime.
Swell.
I'll tell you what though, the zero versions of them that you get now, they're not great.
No, of course not. They're all shit. But
yeah.
Anyway, so we set up last issue that Carol has a fiancé, and we get a sort of a little comedy page here of how Hal went from a regular job to being a pilot on a private jet in the span of 24 hours.
Just a regular job. He was in the mailroom.
Yeah,
like, he was at the low end of the company.
Yeah. And I think it was fair to say mailroom. He just ended up driving someone somewhere, and it ended up with him taking a job as a pilot. So sure enough, he's there, and the entire time, like, I think one of my favorite things about the art in this is Carol's face. As like, he's like, Hal's been all nice to the new boyfriend and joking around with him, and Carol's just like staring daggers at him because she's like, I know what you're doing. You're interjecting yourself into all this to cause a ruckus. So I enjoyed all that, and sure enough, he does get up to some tricks here where he intentionally jolts the plane a bit to make them spill their drinks, and then locks them in the bathroom so he can talk to Carol.
Yeah, just with the Green Lantern ring, just like hovering it back there and just, ignoring him when he's like, hey, guys, door's locked.
Yeah, I enjoyed all these hijinks. I think it's fun, and he's not necessarily in the right. I think what makes this work is that Hal is sort of disrupting this in a way that's not quite right. Like, he is, like, if anything, I hope he doesn't get rewarded for this. I hope, like, he has to learn that he's interfering here.
Yeah, that's presumably the point, right? That it's going to go down.
Yeah. That said, though, they made the new boyfriend so goddamn bland that it wouldn't surprise me if she does end up getting rid of him at some point. But
he is very bland.
He says something in the bathroom about if he can write off the shirt that he spilled the drink on as a business expense, and I'm like, oh god, dude, you are so dull.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Oh dear. So it's Hal and Carol talking about their thing and how he always leaves, and he's trying his best. I mean, honestly, like, it's all kind of fun hijinksy stuff that feels right for the characters. I appreciate that we have a supporting character for Hal Jordan again, because it's something I miss so much with Green Lantern for a long time. And I think what really makes all this thing, though, is just the art, like the facial expressions, the little microaggressions from Carol towards Hal, Hal being overly charming, but sort of seeing through the sheen of what he's actually doing. All of that plays really well, and the art gives it the needed subtext and the visuals that you kind of need for it.
One of my favorite moments for this specific thing you were talking about is right after Hal jerks the plane for the quote unquote turbulence. He turns to the other pilot. He's like, "You're right, yeah, not like a fighter jet. I'll go check on the passengers." And the look that other pilot gives him, it's absolutely perfect. It's disgust.
Almost like this other guy is going to get him fired as soon as they land. He's too dangerous. We can't have him, flying our jets with passengers. So it's all very fun. And then just out of nowhere, the plane runs into what looks like a lot of flying ghosts in the sky.
Yes, skeletal army. Very oh god, was
Army of the Dead?
No, there was a specific thing I was going to, but it's gone. Never mind. Wild Hunt. It's Wild Hunt-esque.
Oh, right. Oh, wait. Okay.
There we go. I got there.
There you go. So a video game reference rather than a movie reference. All right.
I mean, more of a mythology reference than anything, but...
Are the Wild Hunt from something before Witcher?
Yeah, like 12 different European mythologies.
I don't know. Scandinavians have a lot of weird, stuff.
Mythologies? Right? Yeah. They do.
Oh, it's Odin, that.
Yeah, Thor this.
Yeah. Are you feeling Loki tonight? I don't know. Anyway, so that's basically it. I mean, the cliffhanger does kind of just come out of nowhere. I do appreciate the other pilot freaking out and asking for Hal, and just sort of like the reveal of what's actually going on up front is kind of interesting. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do here, but there's a likely chance that this 2-part story in Night Terrors is going to feel like a bit of just a fluffy diversion. I guess all we can really hope for is that it's going to be fun for what it is, and then we can get back to business. It's
so irritating because I'm like, okay, so it's presumably following directly on with the skeletal army in the sky. That's what it's dealing with, right?
Yeah.
But how do you deal with that and not address all the stuff with with Carol and being on the plane and Hal's life right now for 2 issues? It's going to feel so jarring if it doesn't address those after 2 issues of being so focused on that.
I think you're not going to get any of the month ago stuff in the next 2 issues. I do think that because he's with Carol, there'll be a lot of natural back and forth and allusions to their relationship. So I think that stuff will still be there. But I think all the month ago stuff where we're seeing how we get back into it, I think that'll be paused for 2 issues.
Probably. It's so weird. Like, how essential are these 2 issues going to be to the story, really?
I mean, hopefully, and this is maybe asking a lot of a writer, but it's entirely possible that it works on its own, and whatever happens with Hal and Carol throughout these 2 issues where he's there to save her or they work together can still tie into their progression as a pair and their back and forth and the main story arc of the whole thing. That's absolutely possible.
It's a real juggling act, though, because it's got to do that and also assume that there's people who are going to skip those 2 issues because there are random other things. and still function when you come back for the following issue of this to some degree.
I don't know if you. I think if you're
unless they're planning on including those in the trade. I
think they probably are, and I think especially if it's like a 2, because the way this ends, like they have to be in the trade. Like it ends with the T's get into it. Like,
I would hope so, but I have very little faith.
I think you have to make a choice. Either these next 2 issues are skippable, or you're making them just the next 2 issues of the run. I don't think you can balance between those 2 things. So I think my hope is that it leans towards no, they are just part of the run. And anyone who does choose to skip them because they just want to skip all the Night Terrors, it's a bit unfortunate for them, but I do kind of hope they come back for issue, it's 3. I was going to say 5, but it's issue 3.
It is issue 3, yeah.
And be like, oh, I feel like I've missed a bit. And because you should have missed a bit, because technically the next parts of the stories were these 2 issues. They just have a different title, annoyingly.
Yeah.
I mean, no, there's nothing perfect. There's no perfect solution
there
to
isn't,
this.
No.
But that would be my preferred out of all the possibilities, is that it functions closer to just being the next 2 issues of the run, and those who skipped it will feel a little bit pissed off about it. that's my because I have to read them anyway, so I'm being a bit selfish in that regard. But you know,
it's so frustrating because other books are just continuing with their normal numbers. What, like, if you're not gonna change writers, if it's just going to be essentially their next issues, why not just let it happen? The best case reason I can think of at all for why you would want to do it this way is it gives Xermanico a chance to get ahead on another couple of issues. That's the only good reason.
Well, if it was just this book, yeah, I'd agree with that. But obviously it's a line-wide thing, so I would suggest that what it actually is they want people to have that completion. Like, for obviously most people won't feel this way, but for those people who feel like, oh, well, I have to get everyone then, because it's all these 1s and 2s, I have to collect all the Night Terrors. They want those people who are not reading Green Lantern but get completionist sake for event stuff to want to buy the whole thing. And they want to do an omnibus that's just
this has omnibus all over. I was just about to say that.
Yeah, they want the omnibus with all the Night Terrors issues, like that. It's all a bit skeevy. It's all a bit marketing gimmicky.
It's all a bit bullshit. So,
there's the backup story with John staying with his mother, and she's like, "You're thinking of the stars. Your mind's not here," and he keeps denying it. But she knows him too well. You can't help but think. But the rest of it is continuing this stuff in the future, seemingly. And I don't mind telling you, I'm not really sure what the hell's going on in this future stuff in the backup.
I'm getting vibes of when the core was gone and Kyle was, that last light lantern, like the flame.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting vibes of that, but with John for some reason.
Yeah, because I wasn't entirely clear on it last issue, and I feel like this issue has just made me more confused about what
I
this
think this
is.
Needs full issues and not.
I agree with that. Yeah,
especially when you're trying to balance the the stuff back on Earth with it as well. So you've only got 4 pages of you got a double page, 2 double pages, and then at the final page, there's 5 pages of content in the that future timeline. It's not enough.
No, it's not. And Johnson's obviously a good writer, and I like how the stuff with the mum's written. I think those scenes work really well, and I think the art here is quite good in this backup too.
But the backup, it's functionally telling 2 separate stories in its 7 or 8 page slot.
Yeah,
and it's that. So you got 3 pages of one thing, 5 of another, a month apart. It's not enough. And then now you're going to have to go another, it's like 3 months essentially till you read the next part.
Yeah, it literally says at the end, to be continued in Green Lantern issue 3 on sale September. Which, I struggled remembering.
Good luck remembering any of these 5 pages.
I struggled remembering the last backup, and that was a month ago. There is no way in September I'm going to remember this backup story. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, not a chance.
So, I don't know, it's kind of hurt by what the format of it is, sadly. I can see it maybe working better in in trade form, where you can just read it all the way through, potentially.
Yeah, in trade form, I assume they're going to cut these out and just put it as one story at the end.
Yeah, I'd assume so.
Honestly, I'd have just made this an oversized one shot.
Yeah, or potentially make it bigger so that you can flesh everything out.
Either or, yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because I really like the team, but it's just
it's not even that it's bad, because there's not enough space for it to be bad. It's just
no.
There's not enough time. There's not enough room for it to get into anything. It clearly has big ideas that it wants to tackle. Like, it's got a big story kind of brewing already. And it's got like this mystery box of what's going on. But it just hasn't got the pages to actually kind of get into the meat of that and make you want to know.
I think I like what it's poking at, but there's just not enough to actually enjoy it as a story. So that's unfortunate. All right, what are you rating Green Lantern issue 2?
I think I'll give it an 8. Yeah, we'll go with 8.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8 as well. I think it's fun. I think it's got some of that back and forth with Hal and Carol. The stuff in the first half is fun. I especially like the sort of the cliffhanger of that with him falling out the sky. Him
impersonating Batman, doing the I am night, I am.
That's
Vengeance.
Right. Yeah. So it's got that fun spirit, but also more grounded version of Green Lantern that I've been missing for a long time. It's just part of what I liked about Jessica and Thingy's book at the time. It's like there was a lot of stuff on Earth with their with his family especially.
Oh yeah, the Green Lanterns.
Yeah. So
yeah,
she really emphasized the lanterns there.
Yeah, you're gonna have to, because like otherwise all the titles kind of blend together.
Yes.
Like this is Green Lantern compared to Grant Morrison's The Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So there you go. Green Lantern issue 2. Superman Lost issue 4. Christopher Priest and Carlo Pagulayan on the art. So I've talked to Matt about this at least 3 times. I don't know if you've been on any of the episodes where we talked about this.
No, I had to read issue 3 and 4 today.
Okay. How have you been finding it?
Really interesting. I think it's dense, but in a way that I expect from Priest at this point. I'm enjoying it. I think it's so different. It's but not in like it's a bad way. It's just it's so different that it's making you like question it. But I think the more it's gone on, especially this issue, I'm seeing more of this is still Superman. Like this issue and the last issue, I think, actually, to be fair, 'cause I kind of wrote them back. But 3 was the Dolphins.
Yes.
Yeah. So like 3, there's a lot more of this is still Superman in there.
I'm getting a bit more conflicted with it as we go on. I liked issue 1 quite a bit, and I think issue 2 onwards have all had this problem where I really like the 2 or 3 pages we get of like present day stuff where the weight of what he's been through is like hitting him and Lois, and like those little human moments, like I really love, and it makes me excited to see what he went through out there. But like all of the stories of what he's actually was doing in space so far have been kind of hit and miss, and some of them have just been kind of like, I don't know, they don't feel as bad as and I know it's probably building to like the real thing that really broke him and the time that he spent out there. But I know Matt's big complaint is that he feels that there's far too much like, Priest's really proud that he looked up a bunch of stuff, or he's got a bunch of like techno jargon, or talking about the way science works when he's, and that was especially problematic, I think, in like issue 2. There was a lot of like,
okay, I'm saying I don't remember that.
Clark was talking a lot about like moving through space and light years, and but there was a lot of jargon that clearly a lot of research went into about going around galaxies and whatnot. And this one, like, the big thing here is that he's went back to the planet that he left before, and and he didn't want to. He's not wanting to leave again. He's not going to leave the people who are hurting here again. But he's living in a bubble that is oxygen, the based.
Oxygen death zone. Yeah.
Yes. Well, to everyone else on the planet, it's the oxygen death zone.
Yeah.
But he's living on the Kent farm that's in this bubble there. And he's not willing to leave the people in trouble behind, even though he's got a chance to leave with those little annoying aliens that dropped him off here in the first place. So I do think the way he's progressing through some of this stuff feels a little bit strange to me. Like when it sort of revealed that he was back on this planet, it felt kind of like a abrupt transition where I wasn't like, I don't know if I quite felt the desperation that he had to go back the way because he realized that he was screwed, kind of thing.
I get that. I think there's a little bit of, it's supposed to feel like, no, there's a lot of time passing between issues to some extent, in that to really show how long he's been gone, right? Because obviously it's 10 issues, I think, this book.
Yeah.
And he's been gone, more or less a lifetime from his perspective. I think it has to skip through a lot of time, between issues, so to make it feel like there's time passing. So we just kind of, we're coming back in at snippets later, but it does give it a little bit of a jarring feeling of, wait, what did I miss?
Yeah. And Priest as a dense writer, he does, as in he writes dense material, not that he is dense as a person.
It's interesting because it's not even often like, there's points where it's not even dialogue heavy. It's just, he's so intense. I think it's more intense than dense is the word I want to use. Because it feels like everything's so essential and serious. Like every panel feels like it's important, even when it's even when it's just like a blacked out panel with one word in white on it. It feels like it's really weighty, and probably his format and his writing feels more weighty than some of the ideas actually are. Because like you say, you don't get that feeling of, oh, he had to go back, because he was so desperate. Because that kind of happened between issues. Yeah. But then it feels like that moment would play so well in his style.
I also feel like it's, like part of my problem with it's supposed to feel intense and weighty, but it doesn't to what it's supposed to feel like, because this planet that he's on and okay, so what it sets up in this issue is that the leader is actually basically selling off a city to these aliens to come in and do what they want with. Clark thinks they're invading. He thinks there's an invasion happening, and they're like, no, we've got a contract.
Didn't you get the email?
And he goes and confronts this guy. So obviously this idea that there's a leader of a planet who is just giving up the poor city effectively for profit is really dark and a really nasty concept. But I think the way the characters look, the way these aliens look, everything just feels light and comic booky in terms of actual. And I'm not even complaining about Pagulayan's art necessarily. I think it is an overall presentation thing where I just don't feel quite the tone that I think that the weight of these ideas is supposed to feel like. And Clark's whole no, I'm Superman. I can't leave without sorting these problems. These people need my help. I need to make this place better. And that's obviously something I can get behind as a Superman fan, and him feeling like he needs to do something and fix things. But
so I say it feels a bit more like Superman in these last two issues, even though he's lost and stuff. He had to help the Dolphins. He had to sort out that problem. He had to come back here, and he has to intervene.
Yeah, I do sometimes wonder, and because I always get this way with Priest books, where I like the setup, but the more they go on, I start to have problems with how some of the stories being told. Where when I actually take a step back and look at the concepts, and this idea that Superman in part is only gone for so long because of the choices he makes, rather than because he just absolutely could not make it back. No, he had to do the right thing, so that kept him away for longer. And that potentially causing some of the stress between him and Lois because he made a choice to not come back as quick as he could. Yeah. That idea and how that affects their relationship is great. That is absolutely a thing you should explore with these two as a married couple. It's one of these things every time Dan Diddy or someone says, oh, we have to reset the characters so there's drama again. I'm no, you can have drama with a married couple. There's so many things to explore with a long-term partnership and how they handle the fact that he's an alien who flies off and does things.
I cannot wait until it'll be somewhere in the last 3 issues of this book where it's just an issue of him and Lois sat down in a room for the entire issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be one of the best issues of the year.
It'll probably be great.
I think he will knock it out of the park with that issue.
That should be great. I think the way he tells the rest of the story, though, isn't quite clicking for me.
That's fair.
Which is a shame.
I'm kind of... It's something that I think it's very much... It's a Priest-style book, and the more I read of them, the more I'm understanding kind of what that is, and the more I'm kind of getting into it. It takes a different mindset of... when I sit down to read this book, you kind of have to approach it differently to how I approach... I don't know, Batman, right? Like, even just like action, Philip K. Johnson's Action Comics right now. I almost have to come out with a different mindset of what I'm going to read. Yes, they're both Superman books, but they're both so wildly different in the way they're telling their story that I have to come at the book differently. I think once I realize that I can come at a Priest book in that way, I find I enjoy them more.
Yeah, the cliffhanger of this issue is so he's negotiating with the little aliens, and they're like, "Look, we don't give a shit about you saving these people. Besides, there's only one of you, and there's all of us. You'll have to do this alone." And then someone says he doesn't have to, and then a Green Lantern of some kind is the final page. There's a female Green Lantern who, I don't recognize her.
I don't know. She's pink.
Seems to. Yeah, she's got like I won't call them tattoos, but she's got like light shapes on her arms and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if they are actually glowing or if they are like more tattoos and they're just illuminated with the light.
I was thinking it was more of a natural skin like pattern thing rather than tattoos per se.
Yeah, it could be.
Just because alien.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that leaves us off with a bit of a cliffhanger. So, I was not expecting that. I don't know where that's going to go.
I think what I really like is there was a lot of stuff in, I don't know if it was issue 2 or 3, of Clark talking about how the Green Lanterns make space seem so easy. You go here, you go there, zip, zap, zoom, you get home. And he's like, he never appreciated the weight of how one mistake and you're stuck out here. And then now, a Green Lantern shows up, and it's a cliffhanger of, again, it's like, well, this seems like an easy way home. Any Green Lantern would man get back. This should be job done. And it's like, okay, what goes wrong now? What choice does he make now to mean that he doesn't get home?
Yeah,
and that's what is interesting to me about the next issue. That's what has me excited about it. Is how does it's not what necessarily goes wrong. It's what happens to make him choose to not go back with this Green Lantern.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of potential here. I think Priest's writing is just sometimes, like, I almost do wonder if it would be better in trade. Like, the leaving it, a month between issues just makes it very hard to, like, dive back into his stories in a lot of ways. Because it took me a second to realize where he was when it cut. Because that planet wasn't in the last issue. That was issue 2 that we saw this planet and stuff. Because issue 2 was that, and then I think issue 2 was also like the giant nano style alien that made a sort of basically formed themselves into Superman for him to fight.
No, that was 3 because that was where the dolphins were feeding. That's where
the dolphins were. That's right. Right, so that was last issue. So it took me a second to readjust when I was like, wait, where is he? Is this like a flashback on the Kent farm? But it can't be.
I appreciate that it gives you a good few pages until it's like he's conversing with this guy, and it's not until you're quite far into the conversation it's like, oh, he's back here.
Yeah. So I love what Priest's playing with, and I think all the ideas are great, and it's certainly if the weeks keep being quiet enough, I'll keep reading it and see where it goes.
Because you've only got 3 books on this week, you might as well, right?
And I do suspect that there probably will be some nice payoffs to some things. If we do get an issue that is just him and Lois talking about what happened.
I feel it's an inevitability, and there's going to be at least 2 pages of them sitting there in silence.
Yeah. But that makes me also wonder, what... Is there anything else he's going to do that he's going to have to feel really guilty about?
Yes. I don't know what it is, but yes, 100%. Okay. There's still 6 issues left of this book. And obviously part of his guilt and his PTSD is the time he's been away, clearly. But also there is something that's happened. So, some decision he's made while he's been gone, I think, that is... eating at him more than just the time.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. What you giving Superman Lost issue 4?
I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Yeah, it's a hard one for me to rate because I'm kind of mixed on it, ultimately. but I like a lot of the ideas.
A combination of you like all the ideas, but you're not entirely loving the execution. Maybe.
Yeah, it's not the most. Like, it's not even like I can't enjoy a weighty read that's jumping around a lot. Like, I love like a lot of the like Black Label Tom King books and things like that.
As I say, it has a very similar vibe to a lot of those.
But there's just something about the way Priest actually paces them out and like jumps around. It's just a little bit more hard for me to get into.
It's funny because the way you're describing that's how I feel about a lot of the Tom King ones. Where I'm like, I should like this on paper, everything's there, but I just don't enjoy reading it.
Yeah, I think I'll just go with a 6 for this one. And I hope I like the next one more. I do, because I do like a lot conceptually what's going on. But Priest does seem to have this thing with me where I always I like the first issue or two, and then it starts to kind of slide. So we'll see. All right, Spirit World issue 2, Alyssa Wong writing with Haining on the art. So I actually wasn't super into the first issue of this, but there wasn't a lot of books this week, so I thought I'll read issue 2 anyway. Why
Do you hate it more?
I like it less than the first issue.
That's significantly tamer than hating it more, though.
I don't want to be that harsh. I don't think it's like it's not trash or anything, but I just the book fundamentally is not for me. And one of the things I talked about in the first issue, there's a lot of things on its own that I could have liked if they were more drawn out. Like, for example, in the first issue, Constantine and Xanthe go to like a sorcerer's home or whatever it is, right? And some spooky stuff happens, and there's like bollocks going on. And see if that was like half the issue, and it was building up slowly and being kind of a creepy horror story, and then something creepy happened that was spooky, I'd be kind of into it. But this issue reminded me how I felt in that everything's just so very blatantly up front. Like, immediately it's all the supernatural stuff, and immediately this is how everything works. And I mean, the cliffhanger last issue was Xanthe's mother running into them, and then this issue more or less starts with this awkward family dinner, and within a few pages, Xanthe's storming out, but their mother has like a binding hex thing, so there's supernatural qualities to the family as well. I don't know, like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, there's so much like just going on here. Like, I like more a sprinkling of this supernatural stuff rather than just, immediately there's just all this stuff going on.
Yeah, I think it is definitely fair to say that's a taste preference thing on you, as opposed to this being objectively a bad approach. Because I think
that's fair. That's totally
because this
fair.
is not trying to be there's something mysterious going on. No, this is an out and out fantasy book. Like, from the offset, it's very in your face with it.
Yes, and
that was a choice they made that maybe works less for you, but isn't necessarily a bad choice.
I just like, for me, like, fantasy elements, when I do like them, they're better for me when it is a more grounded world they're surrounded by, because they feel more special in a grounded surrounding. Whereas, whereas here it's like, we're just going back and forth between the spirit world willy nilly. Like, everyone's got magic.
I think the problem is with what you were saying a minute ago is you've kind of conflated two things. One, which is a legitimate problem or a legitimate critique, and one is your preference. Mm-hmm. So the point of it, it's kind of all in your face. There's a lot of fancy elements all immediately there. I think that's that's not a fair critique of the book. That's your preference. But the bit about the pacing of the story elements, like, okay, we're in the family meal, and their mum pulls out a hex to and Xanthe tries stopping it after like 3 or 4 pages, saying that maybe that's too rushed as a character beat. I think is a fair critique.
Especially since
I think you're conflating the two a little bit.
Yeah, and we did end the last issue on that. Oh shit, their mother's here, and that feels like it should be a big deal, and it feels like it's kind of like, the impression I'm getting from this is that Xanthe died as a young child, and they've been under the impression they've been dead the whole time. So it feels kind of weird that this was more like Xanthe ran away when they were like 18, and this is like maybe a few years later, awkwardly run into each other. It had a bit of a different vibe, and obviously
the family definitely knows that they're dead.
Yes, and obviously it had that bit with the sister, where the sister's like, I never knew you. I we
I was
never.
born after you died.
Yeah,
I think the sister says that.
But the sister says, "No, but I've been giving you this little like reef thing at your grave, or I made this for you because we don't really go to your grave anymore." And Xanthi's like, "Oh, you're why I'm still connected to this world. Like you're this tether because you still care about me." And that's like a sweet enough moment on its own. But I do think some of these ideas could be like fleshed out so they mean more ultimately. But I mean, like I say, that's the thing where like you're saying, there's the two things here. One's a taste thing, one's an actual critique. I do think that because I have both of those, they're naturally fusing into one
compound problem. A little bit, yeah. And that's why I think my biggest, because start off, I'm a lot more positive on the book overall than you are, because it does play more to my tastes. I'm very much into, screw it, this is a big fantasy world with monsters and the dead and everything, just, and hexes from the off. I'm all in for that. I agree with the pacing for some of the character beats being a little too fast, like the family meal. Like on one hand, Xanthi's being treated shittily. They're being obviously dead named a lot. I really like the way it letters that with just like the scroll instead of telling us what the name was.
Yeah,
I like that, and obviously they should be responding as such, but also at the same time it's like, okay, it's like 4 pages into this book. It was just a big cliffhanger.
Know exactly Xanthi's like history with this? Like, I don't think it's come up too much yet, has it?
In what way?
Like the whole, I didn't even know they had a dead name. Like that was surprising to me when it kind of came up. Was this something that was new?
I don't know. I'm getting this from context as well.
I got it from context what was going on, obviously, but I just wasn't sure.
I'm assuming again because I don't think I read the Lazarus Planet issue with them in.
Yeah, I mean, right from the start, they've been referred to as they and them. So, like, yes. I got non-binary at least, like immediately.
And I don't know if it was clear before that they had a different name before, but I think it was very clear in this scene. Like immediately, like the very first time it did it, I was like, "What's going on here?" Because it was like the second panel of the scene. But by the end of the page, I'm like, oh, okay.
It was Xanthi's reaction to it being used over and over again. It made it clear. So if this was the reveal of this, if this was explaining to the audience that this is a thing, then that was a good way of doing it. I'm just questioning, have I forgotten like a tease from before?
Like I said, I'm not 100% sure. But also, it's because you have the dead name, and then it even puts in bold, we have our little girl back. And then you have just the reaction of them sitting staring at the bowl, like, fists clenched. And it's Constantine who pops up, like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So it was interesting. I guess because when I just thought non-binary, I didn't necessarily think a non-binary person would have a dead name. So that's why I'm thinking, there's more to their,
I guess
sexuality and stuff that I'm.
They can if they want to.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, technically, anyone could choose their name, I suppose. But I don't know. I don't know if I just went just for the fun of it and went and legally changed my name to, I don't know, Star Killer or something. Like, I don't know if I'd refer to Peter as a dead name. That would feel a bit disrespectful.
No, it wouldn't.
Who actually have dead names.
I agree, but I think in this case, it's intrinsically tied to their identity, which does make it that. And two, there's almost a literal dead name here, as opposed to just the way we're using it already.
That's a good point. Yeah, because
they literally died.
Yeah, but they're more alive than the other spirits, seemingly as well, because they're jumping back and forward all willy nilly, like so. Yeah,
like there's definitely something going on. I think like I'm really enjoying all the stuff with Xanthi so far in this book. I'm really into it. And conversely, I'm also really enjoying all the stuff in the other stuff with Cass. But it feels very separate, and I wish the two plots were a little bit more cohesive right now. I think that's my biggest problem with this issue, is that they are so kind of just running on separate lines right now.
Yeah, and they obviously it seems like they're probably going to like merge a bit more next time, because at the end of the issue, or towards the end of the issue, Xanthi and Constantine do come into the spirit world. But and I guess that was the other thing that I wasn't feeling here so much, is that, you know, they go to, like, Cass and co go to like the local kingpin or something in spirit world.
Yeah, they're in like the underworld. So,
yeah,
like, obviously they're in the spirit world anyway, but there's like the shady part of town even there.
Yeah. And it's all this eccentric type character. It doesn't help that I just watched Tron Legacy for the Ace, and like Michael Sheen's got a character in that this made me think of that I hated.
I haven't watched that movie in years, but I remember loving it, and still has one of the best soundtracks of any film ever.
It's got a good score. I thought it was just okay, but the score is good.
Like that's. I don't even want to say it's Daft Punk's finest work, because it's not, but it's probably their second finest work.
But I mean, come on now, like that CG face on Jeff Bridges, you got to admit that's pretty rough.
Yeah. Well, not the best. Product of its time.
Tara was trying to tell me it was good at the time.
I think it was. I remember at the time it being like, hey, this looked pretty decent again at the time, but that was a while ago now.
I refuse to believe that I ever looked good. But
did you not watch it at the time?
No, I just saw it for the first time.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so I was not.
Yeah. No, it at the time it was. Oh man, this looks great. Like for what was a possible at the time, it was like cutting edge.
Yeah, well, technically things like that have gotten better, and I'm still of the opinion we just shouldn't do it, because it's always got a bit of a weird thing.
For more, maybe look at a recent movie that just came out that we were shitting on at some point.
No spoilers though. No spoilers.
No. But what was that about Dodgy CG? It's all from his perspective. Don't worry about it.
Oh dear. So the characters don't actually run into each other. There's not both, but they're all in spirit world at the end, and there's a big tentacle eye monster thing chasing Constantine and Xanthi into the spirit world.
The fact that you throw in some Lovecraftian monsters into this now, I'm even more into it.
Yeah, but I want to feel existential dread if there's a Lovecraftian monster.
That's fair. But all those eyes, I don't know. I think the part of the appeal for me here is just it's a visual feast. Like the showcase, it's a gorgeous looking book. I absolutely love the art in this. With the one caveat of Cass looking kind of young.
Yeah, that's just the art style, I guess. That's
the art style, yeah. But like,
because even that,
I don't think
that was one of my complaints actually with Constantine and the first issue, or maybe it was the Lazarus thing. But I didn't get it was Constantine until they said it was Constantine for like a few panels.
Even with that, like with the coat and the tie.
No, because when you first see him, he's sitting at like a desk in whatever the previous issue was, and it wasn't clear until someone said who he was. I'm like, wait, that's Constantine. It looks like 22. Like,
he's like a slightly younger looking Constantine, but not like awfully. But I don't think Xanthi looks particularly young. I think their family at the start of this issue looks like they look like middle-aged parents, right? You know, they look appropriate.
Sure, I'm not disputing that.
It's Cass who looks particularly young for me, but you know, it's something I can overlook. You know, it's not like a deal breaker when the rest of the art is that good, and the colors in particular, I think, are absolutely gorgeous, and they really make it pop. I don't know. Sebastian Cheng did the colors, and absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. No, I mean the art's obviously a very strong style. It's just very consistent, and like I can't, like no one can accuse it of being house style or just being sort of.
Yeah, no, you can definitely come into this and say it's not to your tastes again, because that's, you know, always a preference thing with someone's art style, but it is a style, and you know, that was a choice that was made, and I definitely appreciate it. Not just this one, but the other books that this launched with, you know, in this Legends line, or whatever they're calling it, I think, the We Are Legends. They all feel very unique in terms of like DC are putting out these books, but they don't feel like anything else, and I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah. I mean, this is like just cemented that this is my least favorite of the three, and that's fine. Like I read issue 2 because it was a quiet week, Because of the Night Terror stuff, I feel like next month won't be like that. So this is probably my last issue of Spirit World, and I just kind of read it this month because of more courtesy than anything else.
That's fair. I think it's fair to say that, like, having the variety of those 3 books is good. You're bound to like at least one of them, whoever you are. I think objectively the quality of all of them is at least good. Like, it's at least a perfectly good readable issue, and then it's down to kind of taste as to which ones you like more. And maybe one of them is maybe slightly better written than some of the others, for example. But I think, when these were announced, this was always the one that you were going to like the least / possibly outright hate. And the fact that you don't outright hate it is maybe a testament that it's not that bad.
Yeah, I don't really want to read any more of it, so don't take that too positively. But
I mean, the fact that you even came back for a second issue, though, like, when this was announced, I expected you to get halfway through the first issue and then put it down in rage.
Nah. I gave it a proper go. But anyway, what are you giving Spirit World issue 2?
I'm going to give it a 7. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm here for more of it.
Yeah, I'll give it. I don't know. I feel weird giving this one anything because it's mostly a taste thing. But for me, it's like a 5, I guess.
That's fair.
Yeah, but asterisks. It's mostly taste reasons rather than anything else. All right. So we got some Patreon books to talk about. Cara's got 2, I've got 1, so we'll back and forth. Cara can start off with Tim Drake Robin issue 8, his other favorite book.
How dare you? How very dare you suggest something like that? It is still, unsurprisingly, a bad book, even without Rosmo. I'm just trying to get it up to get the artist for it, because that would be fair. It's still, I don't want to say Rosmo-esque, because it's not in terms of like it's like, it doesn't have the faces or anything like that. It's not like, really rounded. But at the same time, it's not like 1,000 miles away. It doesn't feel like it's a completely different book. To be fair to it, it's pretty consistent, or as consistent as you're going to get with changing artist, especially away from someone as such a distinctive style as Rosmo does have, for better or worse. I do think a large part of that is probably the colors are really doing a good job in keeping it pretty consistent. The artist is Nicola, here goes, Cismezia, which I definitely butchered. It's definitely something I've read. I feel like they did some. Did they do some of the Red Hood book? I feel like they did some of the Red Hood book that I despise. Are
you getting PTSD of like a previous Patreon book now?
I think I might be. Like, am I wrong? Maybe they didn't work on that.
The ghost of Red Hood past has come to haunt me.
Like, I don't know. Maybe they didn't work. I'm gonna have to Google their name to see if they did work on it. But they definitely did the Azrael book recently, which I enjoyed. That was good. Maybe they just did some Red Hood stuff in Urban Legends. That's what I'm looking at. I don't think they did the Red Hood book, but it's similar. But the art is better in as much as, like I say, it's Rosmo-esque in its color palette here. It's Rosmo-esque in its layouts. It's still a little bit rounded in terms of, there's a lot of soft edges. There's a lot of really thick lines around faces, like really strong inks. But it's not cartoonishly round and long faces like Rosmo has. It's kind of a toned down version, to more palatable to what I like, but still not my favorite because it's trying to still match that style. But yeah, no, this issue it's got Batwoman here. She crash lands on Tim's boat, and by crash lands I mean she literally falls out the sky, hits her head, and has no memory of the last few months. All they know is, it actually says, the last thing she remembers is helping Harley. which I assume was when we had that Harley team up in the Harley book that I was also forced to read before this with Rosmo and the same writer. But that was a while ago. Like I assume in universe, because they talk about how Tim's like, hey, I've seen you loads since then. You know, you helped me move into this boat. You know, you threw a party. You know, we've done stuff. So her memory's been gone for a little while. You know, it's wiped out a bit. And you know, they go, oh, we found some blood on her gloves. They're tracking it down. They're like, okay, here we go. So it's him and Batwoman and Sparrow, which is one of the people in Tim's gang. And they go out and they run into, you know, there's trouble. And, you know, the detective from the urban legend stuff with Tim's there, Detective Williams. And there's a big, like, you know, everything's on fire at the bottom of this street. And, you know, Williams is there, you know, the detective, he's crouching behind the van with his gun out and everything's going off. And Batwoman and Tim are like charging down, like, hey, no, you know, answers are there. But Sparrow gets injured, and by injured, very badly. She gets like stabbed multiple times in the gut, and it's maybe she's dead because there's a or dying at the very least, because the very last thing of the issue is the detective grabbing presumably her walkie-talkie. I don't know why she's carrying a walkie-talkie, or how he's using this to communicate with Robin. It's a bit unclear. But he's yelling into a walkie-talkie to Robin that, hey, Sparrow's not going to make it. She's dying. But Batwoman's off on one. She's like, no time. There's answers here. Sparrow will be fine. And, you know, they get to the guy that they're chasing down, and he's like, oh, I'm wondering when you get the message. He's like, oh, yeah, no, it's not for Batwoman. It's for you. And he grabs Batwoman. He's literally got her by the throat. Like one arm behind her back around her wrist, and then holding her throat with the other. And he's like, oh, thank you, Robin. You've helped us capture a child killer. And that's the end of the issue. And it's like, what? Like, what is going on here? What could possibly she have done in that like time where she's lost her memory to make people think she's a child killer? It's very, very unclear, and it's not in a good like mystery way, just murky storytelling way. Like the stuff like that detective, he's just at the scene already, just pure coincidence, and then you don't see him in any of the action. He's just cowering behind the van. Like I forgot he was there until the very last page, and this is probably a good 8 or 10 pages later from when we saw him last, where he's on the walkie-talkie going, hey, Sparrow's not going to make it. I was like, where did he come from? Like, I'd forgotten he was there, because he shows up for like a page, he's gone for half the issue, and then he's essential in the final panel. It's really awkward, like just awkward storytelling and pacing. And yeah, this book is so bad, and I hate that it's so bad, because I really wanted to like it. And I think I said earlier this was the same. Did I say it was the same writer as the Harley Quinn book? It's not. It's the same art. Rosmo was the link, but I don't think it's the same writer. That was Phillips, right?
Yeah,
and this is Phillips. Yeah. It's not the same writer. But following on from that, which with that link with Rosmo. But yeah,
I don't think I was paying attention enough to catch that mistake.
No, I've just as I was thinking, I was like, did I say that? I don't know if I did or not, or if I just mentioned the Rosmo.
You could have said Elvish wrote this, and I just ignored it.
Elvish?
Elvis.
Yeah, no, yeah, it sounded like you said Elvish then.
Fine, I'll do my Sean Connery impression and talk about tennis and what else ends in an S? I can't think of a word that ends with S.
There's so many words in the language that end with S, and you can't think of any.
Oh well.
No, it's a bad book. It's a badly written book. I hate it more because I wanted a good Tim book. I hate it slightly less because it's not Rosmo, and it's a slightly more palatable version of Rosmo's art in this issue. So, but still, like, not my favorite art here. I'll leave it like a 4.
Oh, baby. All right.
Yeah, I'm not enjoying this.
Well, my Patreon book to do today is Batman and the Outsiders, issue 4, by Mike W. Barr and Jim Aparo. And I've appreciated the continuity in these early issues so far, and this kind of does that. Like, this spends probably half its issue just doing the life stuff. Just the Halo's living with Katana. I don't know if Geoforce is living with someone, or he's just showing his place off because it's this fancy place that looks very expensive. But he's sort of dealing with some of the, like, okay, this is the team sort of settling in Gotham and how they're getting on. I mean, the main like story arc of this issue is a little on the weak side because it basically all boils around Katana keeps like complaining to Halo to grow up and do things better, and Halo's like acting like a teenage girl who's been told off by her mom and is like, you hate me, like you don't care about me. It sounds like teenage girl like angry at their mother talk. But of course by the end they're hugging and like reaffirming their friendship after like the action goes down, and that's basically it. It feels a little bit forced so we can have the arc by the end, even though the idea of them having some some conflict, some growing pains of like not even just living together but just being around each other is a little bit interesting. But yeah, so they're trying to train Halo to use her powers properly, and the team are all sort of and it does a good little thing here where they all have a comment on it, where Metamorpho's like, okay, you didn't do very well there, but you get 3 strikes, you can do it again. And Black Lion's like, yeah, you've got another chance. And then setting up the plot of the issues, Katana's like, for a warrior there may not be a next time. So it's the harsh like get it right kind of attitude. So the villain of this though is One Man Meltdown, who I'm not familiar with.
I'm in.
But he escapes when he doesn't get parole, effectively, or something to that effect. Anyway, basically, yeah, the warden of the prison is basically you're not getting what you want. Yeah, you're.
All I'm saying right now is all I'm picturing is the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
The new one.
Yep.
Okay, I've not seen it.
That's like a kind of the inciting plot is escaping because of lack of parole.
Okay.
And just them yelling Jonathan.
But so he flies off and he can sort of, I don't know, he can turn into like a radioactive dude who like is melting stuff around him and shit. Again, like I'm just assuming general radioactive energy style powers because it doesn't really go into too much of an explanation. But yeah,
Shitty Firestorm, got it.
But you get what's his face? Geoforce showing off his fancy country house to Metamorpho. So they're bonding a little bit, although Metamorpho gets a little bit pissed off when Geoforce is reading about him and Sapphire in the paper. I love how this like will him and Sapphire like stay together has been a thing that's been going since the early 80s, and it's still what comes up every time there's a Metamorpho story.
It's a very long will they won't they story, isn't it? This is why it was it the whatever the Wade book was recently with the Metamorpho stuff, where I was
the World's Finest.
Yeah, I was like, this is the same story I've seen 1,000 times because it's every story with them.
Black Lightning's been approved to start teaching in Gotham, and he feels a bit conflicted about it. He says, I wanted this, but I don't really feel very happy about it. And it never really goes back to that either. So I really appreciate that this book does like deal with their lives. It's not just like what the villain is and them getting after them. It really does feel more like a TV show where you're getting like ongoing things with them, like bonding and how the team's shaping up. But the prison warden apparently can call him Batman just like Gordon can, because Batman goes to see him and he's like, hey, this dangerous guy's escaped the prison, so go after him. And Batman's encountered him before. It's the same old thing. There's an accident in a lab when he was trying to rob it that transformed him into, well, One Man Meltdown. He almost killed Superman once, apparently. I don't know if that's from continuity or if that's just something
he likes to say
they've thrown in here. No,
something he likes to? Oh, as an editor's note.
No, this is Batman saying that, and there's like a panel of it. So I don't know if this is something the writers have just put in for this, or if this is actually from an old issue.
Oh, it sounds like something that he'd like that shitty film. Say, hey, I almost killed Superman once.
So Batman, flees off. This gives the team their mission. So they're staking out places that he might be going. Star Labs in this case specifically, and sure enough, he's trying to break in with his powers. And Metamorpho's disguised himself as a bin to sneak up on him, which is just a fun panel. Honestly, One Man Meltdown, he looks kind of like an inverse Cyclops, because he's got like a black, tight mask over his face, and then the yellow kind of visor.
Okay.
Right? So he's kind of like a reverse Cyclops, but then the rest of his suit's red. So it's like a Cyclops with different colors, effectively. But all the team get involved, but ultimately Halo becomes kind of the linchpin of the whole thing, and her powers fail when she tries to interact with them. His meltdown, like radioactivity, kind of like destabilizes her. But they're able to get in, and like basically all of his radiation's been taken away, and it turns out he actually kind of feeds on it, and he needs more radiation. And this all kind of turns out that the Warden actually basically screwed him. It's a bit of a Shawshank style situation where the guy's actually been really good in prison and genuinely wanted to reform, and the Warden effectively screwed him because he was useful to him. So we get this kind of thing where Batman actually catches the Warden in the act, trying to burn files and records, and comes in, and the Warden's all like, there's no such thing as reforming a criminal. They all just stay criminals. So it's kind of like trying to play up to Batman's worst sensibilities, where he's like, these guys will just be back out on the street. But no, it turns out this guy was actually trying his best to become better. And that's basically the end of the story. Metamorpho actually ends up giving him radiation because he can turn into whatever to form radiation. So it turns out they're actually helping him put this corrupt Warden away. So that's pretty much the bulk of the plot. It's probably not been the most exciting of the issues. I've enjoyed some of the other setups a little bit more, but I did like the twist here with the corrupt Warden. Just because it changed things around from just getting the bad guy. The fact that the bad guy wasn't actually that bad. But he's actually, he willfully goes back to prison to settle his time and whatever. And then the end of the issue is just Katana and Halo kind of having a heart-to-heart and bonding. And it's like, I'm only, I'm so hard on you because I want to make sure you're, I've lost everyone in my life. I want to make sure you're strong enough not so that I don't lose you too, all that kind of thing. And they hug. So, that basically it. I don't think it has quite the strength of what the last story was, like the one with the villain who was holding meetings in Gotham Square Garden, or the 2-part introduction story. But it's a solid enough issue, and I appreciate that it is inching forward all of the personal life stuff. It's kind of my favorite thing about the book right now. That said, though, One Man Meltdown is a great name, and it's a nice, fun, campy, old school comic book villain, which I really like.
Should bring him back.
Yeah, the next issue is actually not an issue of this. It's an issue of New Teen Titans. So that's what I'll be doing next time for this. But yeah, so that was fun. So this one was probably more this was probably more of a 7 out of 10, this one. Whereas I've been a little bit more positive on the rest of the issues so far. But not bad by any means. So there you go. Which will take Connor onto his next Patreon book, which is Noctera issue 12.
Yeah, start of the 3rd arc, which there's a problem a couple of pages early on, which was a bit frustrating. So the very first page is fine. It's a flashback to 13 years ago. It's just M doing some reckless stuff, just showing off what it was like just before everything kicked off. him doing some like Daredevil stuff on a bike with some like home rig jet fuel that he's like put on the bike to try and make a bigger jump. And then like a slightly awkward page that frustrated me, because the second page, it's all black, with like 5 narration boxes on it, and it's telling this story of, you know, how they were essentially, when they were 4, they were abandoned by their parents and left in their car seat in the middle of the road to be hit. And you know, there was something how that, you know, they managed to, at 4 years old, realize that if they could swing themselves around so they were facing the cars and the headlights, they'd have a better chance of being seen with the reflections, so that they might not get hit and someone would stop and, you know, see them. Which is great. This story, this backstory is solid. It's the fact that all of this is just told over a black page and we don't see anything. Even if we were just seeing, like, I know it would be dark to draw all of this. It's a 4-year-old, you know, in the middle of the road. But I don't know, especially when the whole point is about headlights and it being really bright. Doing it on a black page feels like a strange artistic decision to me.
Maybe a blinding white light or something would have been.
Yeah, but then I guess they're like, is that a bit more uncomfortable to read, especially in the age of digital?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
But
yeah, I thought you liked this book. You've been all negative.
I do. I like everything after the issue. Well, most things in the issue after the first few pages, because you have those 2 pages, which. So I like the first page. I like the backstory. I like having that. I kind of don't really like the stylistic approach to that second page. And then you've got like 2 pages of just recap, basically, of this is what the book is. This is what these characters are. You know, they're ferrymen. They, you know, this is Sundog Convoy. And I'm like, okay, this is the 3rd arc. I get that it's been on break for a few months, but little bit of faith, right, at this point, to not, it's the absolute basics that they're reiterating here, like issue 1 basics. It's a little bit overdone, but it's just them. They're doing their stuff. They're getting towards Argus, which is a big, massive. I think it's like an observatory, like telescopes and stuff. They got rejigged into reflecting light, and you know they use it to focus the light instead. So it can let out like really powerful beams to stop anything. And you know they're in a chase. There's big beasts, you know, big shadows chasing them. They're taking one of them out, and they're like radio in the tower, being like, "Hey, you know, use all your powerful beams. We could really use some help." And it takes a little while, but they finally come on and, you know, and help them out. And they pull up and they're banging on the door. They're like, "What the hell took you so long?" And it's Val that opens the door in her new outfit with the blacked out stuff that we had in the Val special from last time. And I'm a little conflicted here because from the character's point of view, she died last issue. And I feel like a little bit more time of those characters mourning her and missing her and, you know, some time without might have been more effective. I think to have her back within half an issue for these characters is a little bit quick. It's a little frustrating, but I like everything after. Okay, right, they're together now. Let's get over that. I like what it does with the stuff that they are here. I just wish that we'd had some time apart first. Preferably without Val in the book at all, because we just had that special, you know, one shot. So I think maybe if you spend some time without her and just follow the rest of Sundog, even if it's just for a couple of issues of just them doing their stuff without her, learning, you know, seeing how they've learned to cope without the person who was their leader. It's kind of lost here. We get a little bit in context. We see that M's kind of stepped up and become the leader. And at one point, M tries to, you know, give it back to Val. Like, hey, you're the leader. And Val's like, no, that's you now. Says, you know, she's the sheepdog. The girl who they were shepherding, you know, who they were taking is the sheep, and you know, you're the shepherd. You know, you got to be the leader now. And and take us to Eos and get us in there. And there's a lot of, okay, first stuff of the arc where I break down, this is Eos, this is the rings, this is how people live there. We find out they've been planning this for literally hundreds of years. So it was, obviously this is the place where the big PM was caused, essentially, because of what their experiment actually achieved is they hit the lights. But we find out that the original plans for this went back to like the 1800s. It's like a mile all underground, a mile in diameter. They've been building it for decades, and they finally, the equations and stuff that they're working off of for the actual experiments. They're like, these have been passed down for hundreds of years, maybe thousands, passed between civilizations. And I'm like, okay, this is widening the scope a little bit for sure. I'm intrigued on the backstory here. Like, how the hell are we gonna get into this place? Because it's a lot. And then we find out there are new types of shades that can. There's like a new monster out there that can turn people instantly. Because before, when you got infected, you had days, weeks, maybe a month before you turned. Now it's like one sentence to the next. You're screaming for help, and then you're one of them. There is that no transition period anymore with this monster that can do it. So then, of course, that's what they're worried about. So they're on the way, and there's like an army of like 50 shades just standing there, like the shadows, like the human ones. And they're like look like they're waiting for orders. They're like an army, and then there's tentacles coming out the back. You could see it coming. They get one of the guys, Diggs, and he gets turned instantly, and they're like, "What the hell is going on here?" And you turn the page once more. Final page reveal, and you see where the tentacles are coming from at the back of this army, and it's Bill. Bill has got an upgrade, so he's back. He's got new powers. It's kind of interesting to see that he's here. Is he, how did he get this upgrade to this extent? Is this something that Val can learn to do as well, now that, she's got a similar style suit to him? Or is it more stuff that's been done after that? But yeah, kind of nice that he has been this, recurring villain. There was a period in the last arc where they were kind of working with him a little bit, and now he's like in control of the shades and the shadows, and he's called it. His design with the tentacles is even better because he is just this black silhouette, and with just this grinning smile. That's the only bit of him you can see is the teeth. It's a shockingly good design for something so simple. And it was a great last page and a great way to start the arc. In terms of like the back half of this issue, I think is fantastic. The first half is where I have problems, where I think it's a little bit rushed. Disagree with some of the choices. The recap's weird. Throwing straight back to Val being here is not a decision I really like that much. But then once you're past all that and it's just, right, this is where we are now, this is the story, I'm really into it. So it's a really conflicting issue. I'll probably give it a 6.5 by the end, just because of those conflicts, but in the sense that I'm still really excited for the next issue. Like that sounds like a really low score, and it should be a damper, but because the back half is so strong in terms of where it's going and what it's going to lead into next time, that has me excited. So positive for the next issue, positive by the end of this issue, even if it's not a great issue in itself because of a handful of problems that it has.
Okay, well there you go. That'll take us out to the part of the show where we pick our favourite stuff of the week, favourite panel/moment, favourite cover, favourite art, and normally top 5, but in this case it'll just be top 3. So what are you giving best panel/moment of the week to?
It's going to be the panel from Green Lantern of the other pilot, just looking absolutely disgusted at Hal.
That's fair. I'll probably go with the same book and Hal falling back to Earth when his power runs out.
Yeah.
Just really pretty. Cover, only 3 books, obviously. I'm going to go with the variant for Green Lantern. I'm going to go with the Derek Robertson Kilowog having some tea in his tracksuit, just because it stuck out to me a bit more.
Yeah, I think Kilowog's a character that Robertson's art suits. Kind of like chunky, kind of awkward. Not in that like that. It's not always bad, but I think it suits Kilowog here. That's a good cover. For me, I'm going with the Dustin Wynn Spirit World variant.
Not surprised. Not surprised.
Hey, I'm a sucker for Dustin Wynn's art. It's great.
Yeah, that's fair. Best art of the week?
I mean, there's only 3 books. All 3 of them have great art, I think. So, no shade on either of the other 2, because I think on various weeks, any of these could have taken the top spot for me. But I am going to give it to Green Lantern. Xermanico, just, so good.
Yeah, not a lot of competition in numbers, but Green Lantern is sweeping because also Xermanico.
But like, it is a high quality week. It's not like it's a gaping chasm between them for me, at least.
Yeah. And then just rank the books, I guess.
Yeah, it is Green Lantern first. There is, I think, no question about that. I'll probably go Superman Lost, then Spirit World for 2 and 3. But I mean, I had a good week.
Yeah, I'm the same order. It's Green Lantern, then Superman, Lost, and Spirit World. But I was a bit more mixed on Lost, and obviously taste-wise, I'm not as into Spirit World. So it was kind of
weird, me being the positive one on more of the books for once.
Yeah, it was an odd week for me this week. It's just the way it's kind of worked out. I like my Patreon book, though.
I hated one of mine, but that's normal. I was, mixed on one of mine, but mixed in a way that I'm normally not, which is disappointing, but yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. We have Nightwing issue 105. We got Batman Superman World's Finest issue 16. We have Wonder Woman 800, which I suspect, while we've not been reading the ongoing Wonder Woman book, there's probably at least part of that will be worth reading for going forward. We have Superman issue 5. We have Titans issue 2. Catwoman 56. Batgirls issue 19. Superboy the Man of Tomorrow issue 3. We have Black Adam issue 12, Batman White Knight Presents Generation Joker issue 2, Cyborg issue 2, and The Vigil issue 2. So a much more packed week.
Yeah, I've got a lot catching up to do. I should get started on that.
You really should.
Final issue of Black Adam as well.
Oh yeah, very good point. Penultimate issue of Batgirls too, actually, sadly. So I've got a healthy 7 or 8 books there, depending on what I choose to read. So.
I think I've got like everything that I need to read. I've got 2 issues of.
Well, good luck with that.
With the exception of maybe Nightwing.
So that's what's coming next week from DC Comics, but that will bring an end to episode 361 of the show. And if you're missing Matt, he should make his grand return next week. So look forward to that, I suppose. But that is the show. You can support the content and support the show and keep it coming by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us financially over there. But if you can't, don't feel too bad about it. You can like, subscribe, you can share us on the Twitters and all that good stuff. Just keep listening to the show. All good. But that is the podcast. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.